am hating this right now. I'd rather be getting a root canal. Why? Because I feel shame. I'm a doctor of psychology. I work as a therapist, a coach, and I'm a professional writer. But I hate public speaking, or even worse, talking to an inanimate, lifeless camera. I hate it because I feel like I suck at it, and I'm ashamed of myself. Shame can rule our lives, claiming our happiness and fueling our anxiety, all without us even knowing it. We are at the mercy of this process, unaware we are playing a role in a script we've been writing our whole lives. The strange truth is, shame is our friend. But let's start with anxiety. It's all the rage right now. Beyonce to Prince Harry talk about their struggles with anxiety and how they overcome them. This growing awareness on mental health is great. The more we know about anxiety, the closer we come to ending the stigma around it. But anxiety is a secondary emotion. It's the one we see and feel, but it's not the main emotion driving us. It is the result of a deeper emotion. We cannot effectively treat anxiety long-term if we ignore the deeper emotion. We can take medication to feel less anxious, but the anxiety comes back once we stop taking the meds. We might avoid what makes us anxious, but by doing so, our anxiety gets stronger and more entrenched. When we scratch the surface of anxiety, we find shame. If we are going to tackle our anxiety, we need to tackle the shame driving it. I need to understand why I hate doing this right now and what I'm telling myself about my inevitable failure in making this video. So what is shame? Although we use them interchangeably, shame is not the same as guilt. Guilt is, I did something bad. Shame is, I am bad. When we feel guilty and say, I did something bad, we recognize that our actions have consequences. Guilt motivates us to either change our actions or say, I'm sorry. But shame stops us in our tracks. I'm a terrible person. There's nowhere to go with that statement. Our shame tells us, you're not good enough. You're not smart enough. No one will ever love you. So just stop what you're doing before something really bad happens. It's no wonder we feel anxious. Because we don't realize that shame is behind our anxiety, we only address our anxiety. We say to ourselves, don't be ridiculous, you're overreacting, you're always doing this. We beat ourselves up for beating ourselves up. So what happens then? More shame equals more anxiety. So why do we feel shame? Like all negative emotions, shame has an evolutionary purpose, and that's to keep us safe. For instance, fear's job is to protect us from doing dangerous things so we won't hurt ourselves. Shame's job is to send us uncomfortable emotional signals to steer us away from doing anything that would get us kicked out of our support system or our tribe. Basically, shame is the fear of disconnection or rejection. There must be something about me that makes me unworthy of connection. When other people find out that I'm unlovable or I'm not good enough, they will reject me. Our brains have a whole emotional, physiological system in place for safety, the threat system. When you try to venture outside your comfort zone, shame says, wait, you're not good enough. You can't do it. Anxiety pops up. You'll be late. You'll screw it up. They'll hate it. Don't go, don't go, don't go. The threat system then wakes up and says, I'm on it, and blasts you with cortisol. The sweats, shakes, and tears start. Then the logical part of your brain says, look, you can't go out like this. You're a wreck. Your bed is right there. Netflix is waiting for you. And here, have a muffin. So shame thinks it has our best interest at heart, but shame is short-sighted. It doesn't care about our goals or our plans to live our best lives. Its only concern is to protect us right now. Shame helps us win the battle to avoid rejection, but as a result, we are losing the war. I said shame was your friend. I never said shame was your smart friend. So how do we break the shame-anxiety cycle? Follow these 3 steps. Notice it, challenge it, and then change it. Changing your critical thinking habits might sound daunting, but we're going to go through it together right now so you can do it on your own later. The first step is seeing the process of self-shaming and anxiety that we are playing out. Pay attention to your thinking. What is your inner critic saying to you every time you try to do something that you care about? How do you talk to yourself every moment of every day? Imagine if you followed your friend around saying, "You're just getting fatter and fatter. My God, you are too ugly to go to work today. So disgusting." This is why when our best friend says, "You totally deserve that gig, you should go for it," we nod agreeably, but we miss the audition or sabotage ourselves another way. So, the next time you criticize yourself, say it out loud. Notice how ridiculous it would be to say it to someone you love. In fact, some of our self-criticisms are so abusive that it would be illegal to say them to other people. Don't talk to yourself in a way that you wouldn't talk to a good friend. So the first step, what is the meanest thing that you say to yourself on a regular basis? Write it down so you can gain distance from it and work through it. The second step is to challenge these criticisms. We may think on the surface that, of course, I'm human. I'm allowed to make mistakes. I'm worthy of love and respect. I can do anything I put my mind to. But deep down, there's a part of us that is too scared to believe it or too programmed to accept it. Step by step, day by day, moment by moment, we can change the programming. Challenging negative thoughts is not the same as positive thinking. Positive thinking only works if you really believe the positive things. If we say to ourselves, "I'm amazing," when deep down we feel like a failure, we will still feel like a failure after we say it. But now we feel worse because we even failed at positive thinking. So instead of hollow positivity, we have to prove to our threat system that just because we think it and we feel it doesn't mean it's true. So step 2, write it down and challenge it. I use an app called CBT Thought Diary by Mood Tools. It's free and you can download it in the App Store or Play Stores. The way we challenge a critical thought is by asking, is it realistic? Or is it biased in some way by shame? Remember, when we step outside our comfort zone, our threat system goes on high alert. Searching for potential danger, we tend to exaggerate, oversimplify, label ourselves. These are called cognitive distortions, which is just therapy speak for thoughts that might sound rational and true, but are biased by our fears. There's a whole list of these that might apply. In my case, my critical thoughts were, I don't want to do the talk because it will suck. I'm a terrible public speaker, people won't like it, and I'm no good with cameras. I'm just not good enough. If we look at my critical thoughts and the list, we can see I'm a terrible public speaker is labeling. I will screw it up, fortune telling. I'm not good enough has so many distortions, all or nothing thinking, emotional reasoning, and labeling. Now, if we hone in on one of the critical thoughts that I wrote down, we can ask, is it actually true? I thought it, which means at least it felt true. But we are going to test it by looking at all the evidence, supporting and conflicting the self-critical thought. Evidence is the opposite of cognitive distortions. It is not based on feelings, opinions, or predictions. It is based on facts. Will it stand up in a court of law? For example, I will screw it up is not a fact. It's a prediction, and fortune tellers are not allowed in courts of law. Another example is I'm not good enough. This is among one of the most hurtful things that I consistently say to myself. But I'm already suspicious of its accuracy because it's so full of cognitive distortions. So let's look at the evidence. The supporting facts for I'm not good enough are that I procrastinated and now I have less time to prepare, that cameras and public speaking freak me out, and that I've never done this exact thing before. The opposing facts are I have studied this topic for many years. I have helped many people with shame and anxiety, and I have written about this exact topic a lot. Also, if you look at the facts and my resources without emotion, I realize that I can rehearse it, I can get help from friends. Thank you, Milo. I know the subject very well. It doesn't have to be perfect. Most importantly, I don't have to be perfect. In this situation, I have created a fantasy about the expectations of the people watching this talk. Something ridiculously high, as if people were expecting me to be Oprah. And I've distorted or ignored all my own skills, talents, and past achievements, as well as the resources I can use to improve, as if I haven't been working in this field for many years. That is the power of shame. It clouds the facts with negativity and fear. The third step is simple, but it's not easy. Self-compassion. What can you say to yourself whenever your critic pops up that is both realistic and helpful? What would you say to a good friend? I tell my clients to practice self-compassion day after day, but I still have that critical voice in my head saying you could have done this better, you could have done that better, you're not good enough. The inner critic doesn't go away for any of us. If we consider the tones of our self-talk, we can break them down into parts and name them. We may have a critic, a nurturing parent, a playful child, an angry bully. The goal is not to silence the critical parts of ourselves. The goal is to strengthen the compassionate part. Here's the funny thing. If the compassionate part is going to get stronger, it can't pick and choose which other parts it's going to be nice to. It's easy to be nice to the parts that are nice to us. Strength comes from showing compassion to the negative parts that bully us, control us, cause us pain, and stop us from getting what we want. I know it sounds counterintuitive to be nice to our inner critic or our bully, but these are the parts that need it most. They are scared and vulnerable and desperately trying to keep us safe. This is how we break the cycle. So in step 3, we create a compassionate voice to add to the inner debate. Write down an alternative to your criticism. Think both realistic and helpful. Realistic is, just because I feel like I'm not good enough doesn't mean it's true. I'm not perfect. I procrastinated because I'm afraid of leaving my comfort zone. Helpful is, I don't have to be perfect. I'm doing the best I can, and that is good enough. Do this exercise once and see if it makes you feel less anxious. And then do it again and again. You don't tell yourself this once and it works, or even once a day. It is a constant conversation. Remember, shame is a protector. Shame even protects itself by hiding from us. Shame influences our beliefs, thoughts, feelings, and our actions, often without us even realizing it. We can't change our shame-based beliefs if we don't recognize they're there. And the less we recognize the link between shame and anxiety, the more shame uses anxiety to keep us in our safety zone. Our best lives are outside our safety zone. Otherwise, we'd already be living them. So talk to your shame like the scared and disillusioned friend that it is. I hear you. I know you're scared. Thank you for protecting me, but I'm gonna be okay. And that's it. If you follow these steps, you can break the shame-anxiety cycle. Look, I survived this. It was more fun than I thought it would be, and all the bad I fantasized would happen didn't. Maybe I even helped someone. Oh wait, I did. Me. Now, if even the idea of showing yourself compassion sounds unmanageable, you might need outside help with this process. You can contact Pineapple Support and they will set you up with a therapist or coach who can help you. If you can't afford it right now, don't worry. They will work on a sliding scale so you only pay what you can afford. Most importantly, you don't have to do it alone.